Let's rock and roll.
Yep, we are at Rockfield Studios, where none other than Coldplay, Oasis and Queen recorded. This is where Bohemian Rhapsody was made. I can't even. Freddie Mercury was in this room, and this used to be a pig shed.
Horses, pig sheds.
Horses, pigs, Freddie Mercury. So, Queen were in here. Oh my goodness. I can't even. Did you know I could play piano?
I mean, you played a chord.
No, I have grades. I can play piano officially.
That surprises me. This machine here is the machine that broke and that forced Coldplay outside to write Yellow. I mean, who'd have thought it?
Ozzy Osbourne stood there doing Paranoid when they first got going in '68. Noel Gallagher sat here doing Wonderwall, that stuff. We all stood there, doing his guitar work. What do you want to know? I don't know. Robert Plant did Big Log, all that stuff was done in here.
My goodness.
This is where Brine May played. They like the echo in the room, you see.
Yeah.
And but this normally this is all clear. This is, and he put the drums in here and the guitars.
Cool.
Brine May played Bohemian Rhapsody solo with his amplifier by there, with the echo of the room.
This is Wonderwall.
The Wonderwall.
Amazing.
Noel Gallagher sat on there and recorded it.
So, just about to go into, well, the Oasis studio where it all happened. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And to think this was a riding school before, and now some of the most well-known songs of our era.
What's your favourite Oasis song, Bax?
Well, we've just been outside Wonderwall, so it's got to be that.
Couldn't agree more. What a place. At a later date, we also caught up with Nick Brine, sound engineer, who also worked at Rockfield. He told us all about his stories and memories from the place.
Yep, so I'm Nick Brine, producer and engineer. I started at Rockfield when I was 16, literally straight out of school. So nearly 30 years now since I first went up the driveway there and met Kingsley for the first time. It kind of happened by accident, really. I was just walking through Monmouth and somebody who I knew who worked at the studio said there was a job going there and said, I think you'd be really good at it. Do you want to do it? It took me by surprise because I was in the middle of my GCSEs at the time. Went for the interview. I didn't say anything at the interview. Just Kingsley talked to me for 40 minutes and I got the job. That was it. Yeah. So that was the start of the journey, really. Yeah. I mean, I had kind of an idea in my head how I thought it was going to be, and growing up in the countryside, you're kind of used to properties like that, but I'd never been there. So I kind of thought it was going to be kind of this, I don't know, grand kind of more modern building. And I didn't realize it was actually a working farm. Yeah, I'd been on a farm, kind of grew up. My best friend and my mum's best friend, who was my best friend's mother, they were on a farm. So we grew up on their farm with them, around all the animals, and we lived out in the countryside anyway. So I was kind of used to that lifestyle. But yeah, it was, you kind of don't realize how well, it sounds silly, but how farm-like Rockfield is. You have this idea that it's going to be kind of like more modern building and kind of a bit more state of the art, but yeah, it's just the buildings as they were when it was originally a farm.
And if you could sum up Rockfield or your time at Rockfield in 3 words, what would they be?
Oh, crazy, crazy, amazing. And well, it's 4 words then, because life-changing.
It's interesting to hear from like somebody actually actually who worked there, because obviously we had Kingsley's perspective, which was great, but
Yeah,
you kind of echo his sentiments about the place and what it does for, you know, creativity and music production.
yeah,
So everybody's joined up in what they get out of it, which is a really nice thing to kind of hear from it as well, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, because obviously he grew up there, so it's hard for him to take a step back and look inwards on it. And I've been there so long, it's hard for me. But obviously, I'm in the room at the time, so I'm like one of the few people who was in the room for all those. And in the '60s and '70s, Kingsley was actually in the room, and then after him, you know, then from the '90s onwards, I took over being that person in the room. So you get to see both sides of it. You get to see the perspective of the family and kind of the outside and the inside looking out. And I mean, it's a weird and wonderful place. They are crazy, crazy. I just did a session with Cy King, one of the Hairy Bikers. Just did an album with him there. Great fun. And he absolutely loved it. He just can't imagine ever recording anywhere else. But he also said he's obviously traveled everywhere around the world doing cookery programs in the most bizarre places. And he said it's probably the most dysfunctional, functional place he's ever been to. And he meant that in a really nice way. He said, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't happen. It's got all the elements of Faulty Towers, but it's like just the most amazing creative space to be in. And he said, once you immerse yourself in that world, you just fall in love with it, you know. And he can't imagine ever going anywhere else now. But he was blown away by the characters and the craziness of the whole thing as well.
We just loved it. Honestly, the moment we arrived, we were like, oh my God, we get it. Just the presence there, the feeling you get. Kingsley's he's just brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, so.
All the elements you can't take away, if you take away that family, it doesn't work. It's not the same. You know, they're farmers and they live a kind of, I don't know, they live in a bubble in Rockfield, you know, that's their kind of thing, but you wouldn't have them any other way. And if you took away the farm, the studio wouldn't have the same appeal and it wouldn't be the great story it is. The farm helps write the story of these two farmers who are on this farm, turning it into one of the most iconic music places on the planet. So the farm has a massive part to play in it. The family has a massive part to play in it. And then, of course, the artists that have been there that elevate it, your Ozzy Osbournes and Queen and Oasis, the Stone Roses. It just is an amazing story, you know, without any corporate world involved whatsoever from start to finish. And that can be a frustration sometimes, the non-corporate side of things, but also it's such a relief when you go there to make a record. And when you're in London working, you get the managers popping in and the labels popping in and people kind of bothering, feeling like they need to be part of it. And you don't get that there because it's so far away. And just amazing. And the fact that it is kind of still, you know, they've resisted the temptation to design it or to get an expensive designer in and have it look, so it is the way those bands were and those rooms were is kind of still how it is. And they've just made the spaces work for music as opposed to try and create a space to make music. And music is being made in these spaces that are exactly as they've been for hundreds of years. And I think Monmouth is a great town. So having it that adds another element to the studio. You know, that kind of market town, really nice town, really great people, good social aspect to it. The pubs and the characters in the town, and they're so used to seeing whoever walking up the street. It's played a massive part. I think its location, everything about it, just fitted. You know, all these things kind of came together. It shouldn't work because they're all bonkers, but it does, and it's wonderful.